Behind me is Abraham Darby's furnace. Now they say Coalbrookdale is the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, but in able to smelt iron, you need the following ingredients. You need coal, you need water, you need limestone. So how do you get all of those things here to Coalbrookdale from the Shropshire Coalfield? Well, the answer was simple. They needed a canal. Hey, welcome back to Telford Ultimate Guide, and we are at Southall Bank. Now, one of the videos we did probably a year ago, ended here at Southall Bank, and it was the Shropshire Canal video. We were tracing the route, so we'd already traced the route from Coalport to here at Southall Bank. Well, we're back to do the next section, which is from Southall Bank across to Coalbrookdale, and the area of Coalbrookdale known as Brierley Hill. Now you might be thinking, Brierley Hill, that's in the West Midlands. Oh well, there's a Brierley Hill in Telford, there really is. So this is where we're starting. So at the moment we are actually on the Silking Way, and this is the actual original Coalport to Wellington railway line. So what happened to the canal from this point onwards? Now, the original Shropshire Canal would have came out here. So this would have been a big junction here on the Silking Way. Now, this junction would have been able to take you north towards Donington and also over towards Brierley Hill in that direction, which is a kind of westerly direction. So the canal would have been a lot higher than this. The railway has been dug out to lay these tracks that were here. So let's go and head towards the first port of call, which is the Aqueduct Bridge. The Shropshire Tugboat Canal network was built during the late 1700s to transport the much needed raw materials to the furnaces and ironworks to fire the Industrial Revolution. The canal was built by William Reynolds and was opened in 1793. The canal linked Newport and Shrewsbury to Coalbrookdale and Coalport. One of the first obstacles the canal would have met is this. This is the Bridging Off to Wellington Turnpike Road, or better known as the A442, the old route that went through Aqueduct Village. Now they built this splendid aqueduct here, an original stone aqueduct, and it's such a beautiful piece of engineering, but sadly in a very, very bad state of decay. You can clearly see that beautiful red sandstone this aqueduct is made out of. There are hopes in the future that it will be restored. We are actually on top of the aqueduct now, and it would have originally come through this area at this level, but there would have been a cast iron trough in here, I would imagine, originally. But the canal now heads over in that rough direction, and this is towards the actual modern housing estate of Aqueduct. So we're actually on an elevated position at the moment. So from here originally To the left you would have been able to see right over to Madeley Court and beyond, and all the fields, etc. But the canal was actually perched on the top of this slope here, and it actually follows the original route of this footpath, which, if you were kind of at the back of Mallory Drive, that sort of little estate there. So you can see that the canal is still bending around now, and that's quite a defined route to it. So we're now coming around the bend now, and the canal starts to straighten out. So the gate that's there, and you can see the sort of clearing in the trees there, that's where the canal would have originally run across. Then it takes a sharp left turn to the left and goes over towards Aqueduct. Now the thing about Aqueduct is that a lot of the land levels have changed, so we are quite high up on the bank, but what we've got to remember is Aqueduct was a lot of spoil mountain aqueducts, so they've all been levelled out, and obviously the canal now looks like it's a lot higher than the original level as we go across. But we'll, as true to form, we will go on the exact route. Now this is a little bit overgrown, but it gives you an idea of where the route ran to. You can just see how there's a sort of clearing in this sort of tree line here. I mean, you can actually see the trees are quite high. So as we carry on, so somewhere underneath this sort of bank here, there is the canal buried underneath here. Of course, TDC planted a lot of these coppices out originally. So we're carrying on. Now, this is a little bit of woodland, a little bit of Telford sort of future woodland here. And we'll then come through here now. And we're going to start to take a left turn now. Okay, so our canal is taking a left across here. Now you're probably wondering how we plotted this out. Now how we've done it is with side-by-side maps. One of the best assets really, because you can overlay it on the existing map. So we're coming across. It's very a lot of saplings in here. Now the canal would have gone across here now, over towards those houses over there, so that's the rough direction we're going to head in. So this is our route of our canal now. We're pretty much on course now. So let me tell you a little bit about the estate of Aqueduct. Well, the estate of Aqueduct was more or less a bit of an experiment really, and it's the first time that Telford Development Corporation actually enlisted the help of a private architects company, and the company was Eric Loyne's partnership, and they built this amazing housing estate which was award-winning in its time, and they created this. This is Aqueduct, and this is a play on a village really. Very informal village. It's quite a nice place. So a lot of the houses were very unique, little mono pitches. Just every house is just that little bit different, isn't it? And that's what made Aqueduct so unique. And if originally when it was started, I think it was originally started as a private housing estate, but I think the developer went bust, and it ended up being taken over by Telford Development Corporation, and they created this estate here. So here we are in Aqueduct, and we are going true to form of exactly which way the canal went. Now the canal went straight over there now as the crow flies, but we're not going to be able to go through someone's house, so what we'll do is just come around the outside. But take a look at these beautiful sort of chalet style houses, very unique. So we're now back smack bang on course with the canal again, and we're kind of over near the Dorley Pools area, so we'll carry on along. One of the mistakes made by the early canal builders was not providing enough reservoirs, or any at all, and canals are pretty prone to leaking, and this is the solution to it. These are Dorley pools. There's sort of 3 pools along here which acted as a reservoir to keep the canal topped up, so they were able to pump water out and also pump water in to keep the levels up. So we're at Dorley Pools now. So there's certain, they've got different names like the Dandy, Wide Waters Pool, etc., but they've now been sort of integrated into the Telford Development Corporation land drainage programme, and they act as reservoirs for holding water, surface water, for the Dorley and Aqueduct area. To the left of me is the pit mound, which is known as Botany Bay Colliery. A lot of people wonder why it was called Botany Bay, for obvious reasons, but this entire spoil mound here was right at the side of the canal, and that happened previously, didn't it, with the canal over at Blistershill. So one thing I will say about these pools, they are absolutely teeming with wildlife. Look at that, it's just a lazy Saturday morning. So this pathway pretty much followed the route of the canal, and the sort of direction we're heading for now is Lightmoor and Doseley. Going right back into history, this particular area used to have its own castle, or maybe it was more of an elegant house, and well, it was known as Dorley Castle to the locals, and I think it sat on one of the pit mounds over there. No one's got any pictures of it, or potentially what it looked like. There really are some great places to walk thanks to old canals and routes and railways and stuff like that. So we're still going on. This is quite a narrow body of water, but also very, very long. So this is a really good vantage point of the reservoir itself. As you can see, it's such a beautiful place, and you can see the pit mounds all around them. Just splendid. Lots of silver birch here, but actually I am standing on the sluice for the for this pool, and actually this water now goes straight to Madeley Court from here. Now we're coming to the car park, which is just at the bottom of Little Dorley. Okay, I think it's maybe off Parish Close, that neck of the woods. So the canal goes straight across here now, straight as an arrow. Okay, straight across. And if you go left, that will take you into Aqueduct Estate, the kind of bottom end of it, Majestic Way. If you go right, that takes you up to Little Dorley. So as we carry on, you'll see that we've got another pool here. Okay, you'll see it now. There you go, another pool just through the hedge there. And again, this is another reservoir for the canal. So now we will continue on now towards Lightmoor along the original canal route. Again, this is another elevated section of canal, which would have been, you would have been able to see it for miles, right perched up on the top there. So it would have been quite a sight seeing all of these barges coming and going across the top. So you can see from here we're in such a lovely elevated position. You can start to see that the pool is starting to narrow now, and it goes back into the original canal. So there you can see the original canal back in its glory. It may look a bit of a swamp to you, but this actually is the Coalbrookdale arm of the Shropshire Canal. So we've got a bit of a junction in the path here, but we're just going straight on. Right takes you over towards the bottom end of Lightmoor. The canal is still to the right of us. So I'm now standing in the bed of the canal now, as you can see, and you can see the original wall at the edge of the canal, and you can look at it. Just look how rounded those stones are there. They look like it's been built out of chunks of slag if you look at it, and it's almost like a slab there as well, isn't there? It's very, very smooth. And you can always tell a canal bed because it never really grows that much vegetation, but it's quite wet underneath, and that's because the original canals are clay lined and they hold water. So an abandoned canal will just hold swampy water. So as we turn this corner now, you can actually see another structure along the canal, and this is the Tubboat Canal. So you can see this beautiful bridge where the canal would have passed under. I mean, this has been really nicely restored, this has. So this tugboat bridge here would have originally probably carried some light sort of goods over the top of it, maybe a tramway of some sort, but it's such a lovely little feature. So as we come out of the tunnel, we are greeted with Lightmoor Road, which is here. This is the road that takes you up towards Lightmoor and Little Dawley, okay? So the canal would have originally crossed straight over here. Straight over this car park. So now it's good that we're starting to pick up more evidence of the canal as we go along. So there's a little pathway here which might be quite overgrown, which will bring us back through. So the canal now appears to the left of me down in the dip, and it's quite a wide section of canal this is now. Now potentially it would have been an area where they would have had a waiting area to potentially cross under that bridge, under the tugboat bridge, but you can see, definitely sort of see the canal now. So we'll go down into it. So there we go. So you can see the bed of the canal going west and east, okay? It's that same sort of wet vegetation here, but we'll carry on. So this path pretty much winds its way through the woods here with the canal right next to us on the left hand side. So you can still see the canal bed just down there again, it's still following through. So there's lots, if you really need to look for it, you know there's lots of parts of this canal still surviving. So here we are now on the road down into Doseley from Little Dorley. So the canal now takes it's kind of on this trajectory of the left hand side here. So let's sort of go along here. So the canal would originally be in, I would say, in this sort of vicinity in there. Okay, now something else happened here, which was what killed the canal off, which was here. This is the Wellington to Lightmoor line via Doseley and Lightmoor. You can see, so that railway ran right the way through here, right next to that canal. Now there are plans to open this back up eventually. I think the Telford Steam Trust have got really good ideas about this. But let's have a look at the area we're in now. We're in an area called Hollywell or Hollywall. This actually used to be an area of squatters' cottages, pretty haphazard built cottages here, and one or two of them have been saved, but this actually is quite a nice community now. So we're following the canal, which is on my right hand side. I would imagine the bed of the canal was replaced by the railway, but it's still to my right, and in a second it turns over to the left and then into the ground to the left of me. So you can see over in the distance that ridge of trees that are running right the way across, and you can actually see the modern Lightmoor village poking out between there. Well, actually along that ridge line was actually the route of the canal as it went to Doseley, so it almost does almost a hairpin right the way round to go over the top of that. So we'll be going over that end shortly. So now I'm actually at the bottom of Holly Road. Now behind me is gravel leasos, and the road back up to Little Dorley is to my right hand side. Over this way we have got the railway crossing here, you can see. So we're now at the bottom of Frame Lane now, and behind me was the site of Johnston Pipes, who have been making concrete pipes on this site and sanitary pipes for a long time. Unfortunately, like any other business, they completely disappear, and this has been replaced by this new kind of village that they're building here called Doseley Park by David Wilson Homes. So as I come into the estate itself, we're over this sort of neck of the woods here. The canal actually had a small basin, roughly, I would say where that house is there, where we're sort of walking towards. So this would have been a basin for unloading bits and pieces, goods, etc., because there was a lot of industrial activity around here. So I'm walking actually on the exact route of the canal, and then you can see that tree sort of ridge there, that's where it followed. So we'll come over from the basin and then we will follow that around. You can now see the original curvature of the canal. this village was first planned, it was actually meant to be a garden village, which roughly translates as a housing estate with lots of green space and green areas and stuff like that. And I think they kind of achieved that here. It is a very, very nice development, but I kind of got the impression things are taking a nosedive on future phases, where they're just taking the detail out of the houses and getting away from what this truly meant originally by cramming as much housing in as possible. As you can see, the original canal carried on along the ridge. Now what it does now is it then goes straight across here into this embankment. So now you can start to see the canal appearing now just in that sort of section there. Now do you remember the little earlier on in the video I mentioned that ridge that ran across that we could see over the other side? Well, this is that ridge that we're walking on now, and this has been made up for the canal to run along really. Now one thing you'll see is this part of the canal is still holding a little bit of water, and you'll see there you go, you can see there, can't you, it's quite a defined sort of canal bed there. So this is literally a big ridge we're walking upon now. So from here you can see how this ridge is made up. You've got the canal in the lower section, then you've got this literal mound here which is probably packed with clay, and then the ground completely drops off that side. So it almost is engineered just to be able to keep that water in and to stop this piece of the bank eroding. Now as we come around this corner you can actually see there, you can see the old squatter's cottage there which has been recently renovated. So here is the old squatter's cottage, been lovingly restored. Now, why do they call them squatter's cottages? Well, it's basically, they were built like a ramshackle kind of, you didn't need planning permission, you just built it there. And you can see it's just bits and bobs of this, that, the other, but it's actually been restored really, really well. Now, the canal itself meandered around the farmhouse itself. So over there you can see Stocking Farm. Now this is not the Stocking Farm originally, this has been rebuilt by the developer, but it's pretty good, pretty nice really, and the barns as well have been lovingly recreated as well. So the canal ran around the farm itself, then it carried on straight the way down through the village, as you can see. Pretty much on the line of that street there. One thing I love about Lightmoor Village is all of these lovely little lanes that meander around the village, and it's this beautiful fusion between sort of old and new. So the canal is actually running over to our right hand side now. And it takes a left, kind of very slight left now, bit of a curvature, and then heads across the fields. So it's coming across here, then across over to the field, sort of where that big shrub's sticking up there and the power line, through that gap there, and then it pretty much goes straight across the field. So here's the field now. So we are now going to head straight across this way in a kind of, I would say we're about southwest, in a southwesterly direction. So it's completely disappeared amongst this field, this canal has. You can see the field's probably been filled in, levelled, etc. So let's sort of carry on across. So let's get our bearings. Over there you can see the Ironbridge bypass, and then Lightmoor Nature Reserve is over there, and right behind me is Lightmoor Village. So we're now heading towards this clump of trees here, and inside that clump of trees we will see the canal yet again, and it gives you an idea of how much this has actually been built up. So guys, down there is the original canal again, look. So here is the bed of the canal running straight the way through. Now this runs for a few hundred metres, this does. You can actually see you've got these two steep banks either side, and this actually is quite a wide section of the canal really. So we're actually going to walk along the edge of this this cutting where the canal is. Because that section of the canal is pretty overgrown. I mean, in the winter months it's probably quite possible to be able to do it, but we'll follow the edge here. And a lot of these fields are public right-of-ways now, and part of the wider Lightmoor village. So you can see the canal down in the dip there. You can see it's quite a way down. So you can see the extent of this tree line now. It literally stretches all the way along there, and then down in the bottom is the dip of the canal. So over here they've built the Ironbridge bypass, which they would have filled over the dip, but the original lane, Crackshaw Lane, is actually still there, and we'll go and have a look at that now. So you can see the ridge line there, and again it starts over this side. So right underneath me now is the Crackshaw Lane Bridge. Now you can't see much of it from here, you wouldn't even know it's here, but if you delve in you'll be able to find it. So you can start to see the stonework of the bridge now, look, just coming along here, and you can see the depression in the ground. So it's a little bit tricky to get to, but worth the trip down. A little bit steep on this side. There we go. You can see the original Crackshaw Lane Bridge here. So what's really nice about this is you can see the actual arch there. Look, if you look closer, you can see the arch. And you can see that the bridge is actually being filled in. Look, you can see it's been filled in with rock. So now you can see the sign there, the old Wind House. Now where we are now is what we call an area called Brierley Hill. Not Brierley Hill in the West Midlands, but just Brierley Hill. And Brierley Hill itself was the site of the Wind. And the Wind was a primitive way of getting materials off the canal down to the lower level. So when they built this canal all the way from Aqueduct all along that route, one of the problems were when they got to here, because this is the top of Cherry Tree or Cherry Tree Hill, the old Wind, Brierley Hill. The problem was initially was that they needed to get the materials down. So one of the plans were, just like the Hay Incline Plane, was to dig a tunnel into the hillside and actually take the goods down through this tunnel. And that's exactly what they did here. They had two engines which actually wound and brought the materials up and down and connected with the tunnel just down at the bottom of Coalbrookdale. Originally it worked by one weight going up, pulled the other side up, one weight going down, pulled the other side up. So that's how it worked. And then it was much later it was replaced by an engine of some kind. Eventually that idea was scrapped, and they decided then to build the incline plane, which everybody knows that works, one of the most easiest ways of getting goods from the top of a hill to the other. So that eventually was it. But to be honest with you, this branch of the canal was never really successful, and it was very short-lived. So now you can see we're actually at the top of the Wind now. You can just start to see where the actual incline plane would have started. But the house here, this is known as the old Wind here. This house here originally still does have the shafts, the two shafts in the garden for this particular structure. And there should be some images on the screen of this. But yeah, so this is where it was. This is the Wind, and this is where all of those goods were transferred onto the Wind and then delivered deep under the hillside. So you can see now from here, you can see where the top of the incline plane started, and we now will go over towards the incline plane. So we're now taking a right turning down these steps. So you can see here it says, "Welcome to the old Wind." If you've never been down this sort of neck of the woods, this actually brings you out at the bottom of Cherry Tree Hill. And it's absolutely a beautiful woodland area here. Just somewhere when you want to go where you're just probably not going to meet anybody. Just somewhere nice and private to go for a nice walk. Anyway, we're just coming to the sort of quarter mark of the old Wind. So, you know, the old Wind would have been two names really. A, the winding engine, which would have taken the goods down the shaft, but also the winding engine which would have carried the goods up and down the incline plane. Unfortunately, there's no pictures survive of this incline plane. Pretty much the same as Windmill really, which is a real shame. So now you can clearly see the route of the incline plane. Now it's actually been cut out of the bank here. You can just see how either side has just been completely sliced out, and I suppose they did that really because they wanted the same gradient all the way up really, and that was probably the most sensible way. But you can see it's a fair old steep, and I can hear cherry tree hill. I can actually see cherry tree hill at the bottom. But yeah, try walking up this. So this is what's known as the Old Wind. This is Cherry Tree Hill, the bottom of Cherry Tree Hill. Now the railway's there, that is the Ironbridge Power Station line. Now this wouldn't have been here when this canal was here, so the canal or the rails at the bottom would have taken you straight over towards one of the pools. Finally, the canal reaches Coalbrookdale. Its connection to the furnaces is via a small tramway. This is the powerhouse of the Industrial Revolution. Coal, limestone and water is required to make this powerhouse produce the quantities of iron that is required. Eventually, the canal was replaced by the railway, like this one that towers above Coalbrookdale. This railway line took coal to the power station to generate electricity for decades. Thank you for coming along on another Shropshire Canal adventure. Join us next time when we look at the canal running from Southall Bank to Trench. Thank you for watching and please subscribe.